Welcome to the Growing Tall Poppies podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nat Green, and I'm so excited to have you join me as we discuss what it means to navigate your way through post-traumatic growth and not just survive, but to thrive after trauma. Through our podcast, we will explore ways for you to create a life filled with greater purpose, self-awareness, and a deep inner peace. Through integrating the many years of knowledge and professional experience, as well as the wisdom of those who have experienced trauma firsthand, we will combine psychology, accelerated approaches, coaching, and personal experience to assist you to learn, to grow, and to thrive. I hope to empower you to create deeper awareness and understanding and stronger connections with yourself and with others, whilst also paving the way for those who have experienced trauma and adversity to reduce their suffering and become the very best versions of themselves in order to thrive. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I'm super excited today to bring you our next guest on the Growing Tall Poppies podcast. It's my absolute pleasure and privilege to welcome my amazing and delightful friend Emma Gray to chat with us today. She has so very generously offered to share her experiences and her many powerful words of wisdom with us. So let me introduce Emma to you all. Emma Gray is a best-selling author, coach, meditation teacher, and clinical psychologist. And after recovering from trauma and burnout, she is passionate about supporting other women who want to make a difference in the world, but not exhaust themselves in the process. She helps mission-led women manifest their soul passions and create an abundant, soul-nourishing life. She is obsessed with all things meditation, manifestation, spirituality, and woo. And we'll definitely find out more about that as we talk today, I'm sure. Plus a mix of nerdy neuroscience. Her manifestation mastery programs teach money mindset and other powerful tools to help women shift their blocks and achieve their goals so that they have more time for loved ones, for self-care, and the things that are important to them. And Emma is also known by our close group of friends as Little Miss Sunshine, as she honestly uses so much positivity. So welcome, Emma. It's so great to have you here, and I'm grateful, honoured and blessed to be able to share this space with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nat. I feel the same. I'm really excited to be here and to be part of this amazing podcast that you've created.
Thank you. So I know that I've given a brief intro already, but can we start with you giving us, in your beautiful words, an introduction of who you are and what you do in the world?
Sure, yeah. So I teach happiness, I suppose. I work with, really what my passion is to work with women who feel like they have a calling, who really feel like they want to make a difference in the world. And there's this strong drive to show up as their true, most beautiful soul self to serve others in some kind of way. So the sort of women I tend to attract are therapists and coaches and healers and women on a mission, really. So, there's some entrepreneurs and leaders in there, but really women on a mission who want to make a difference in other people's lives. And so I support them to work through their own stuff, fears, limiting beliefs, blocks, whatever it might be that might be holding them back, because we all have those. We're human. That goes with the human territory.
Absolutely.
To help them shift that stuff and, bring things into their lives that are going to support them, whether that's in terms of relationships or financial abundance or, balance in their home life or whatever it might be, to support their whole self so that they can really show up powerfully in their mission, in their job, in their work, to fulfill their soul calling in this lifetime, if you like. Yeah. So I do, I do meditation and manifesting groups and lots of beautiful, lovely stuff with beautiful, soulful women.
Oh, that is so amazing. And I'm so grateful that you've shared that, but I know it hasn't always been like that for you. And we know that the guest interviews that I do are with people speaking about their trauma and adversity, not at great depth, but how they've navigated their experience and any lessons or learnings, because we know that there really are so many. So I'm wondering if you could share an overview of what's happened for you, what you've been through.
Sure, yeah. Life isn't roses for everyone. If you're human, life isn't roses. You've been through some stuff.
Yep.
And there was some, I guess you could call it some complex trauma that happened in my childhood, but the experience that probably had the most impact on me was a toxic relationship that I had. It was a narcissistic, toxic, really unhealthy relationship that taught me a lot of stuff, but created a lot of pain and suffering for me. And there was, I didn't feel psychologically safe. I didn't feel physically safe in that relationship. It was a very, very, very scary time for me. And I lost myself in that relationship. And I lost my sense of self-esteem, self-worth, who I was, and felt very afraid at that time of my life. And it took me a long time to recover from that. And there were lots of gifts in that experience, but there was a lot of pain and suffering in that experience as well for me. And it came together at a time when there was also burnout. I was trying to do too many things. So I was also had my own anxiety, my own low mood, my own burnout that came all, it was the perfect storm, everything coming together to be my dark night of the soul, I guess you could call it. Yeah.
Most certainly sounds like that. So much going on in all at once, as you said, the perfect storm. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, when you think back to that period of your life, how did you initially cope when you got to the point where you just thought, this is it, something has to
Yeah.
give?
Well, initially, I think I had a whole lot of unhelpful coping strategies, Nat.
Yeah, don't we all?
Some things that I picked up along my path from childhood that helped me cope back then. There was dissociation and there was avoidance and trying to make myself invisible, being the small target and trying to make myself disappear and trying not to have needs, I suppose, and trying not to poke the bear, if you like. So I really tried to make myself, there was lots of, the fawn technique, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. There was lots of that, people pleasing, self-sacrificing, perfectionistic. All of that was going on, which obviously wasn't, it kept me safe in the moment, but it ultimately wasn't serving me, and they're not healthy coping mechanisms, but it's what I did at the time to get through until I discovered the healthy, helpful things that eventually I got to. Yeah.
Mm. And, I'm sure all of our listeners can relate. There's no book or textbook that we just read and we know what to do. We all do the best we can with what we've got at the time. And as you've already alluded to, as horrible as it was, there's also some gifts in there, but we don't learn that till later on. So tell me, Emma, what changed for you? You were doing all these things, trying to keep yourself small, doing everything you could with the resources you had at the time. What was the tipping point that turned that around for you?
Yeah. So being in a situation where I felt I couldn't change it, didn't know how to change it, tried everything I could to change the situation, but was stuck in a situation that I felt I couldn't leave for a whole range of different reasons. Some of your listeners may, even though the story might be different, they may have experienced circumstances where they feel like they can't change their environment and they can't see a solution. What that does, or what that did for me, was force me inward. There was a lot of deep soul searching that happened. It's like, I can't change this external thing. All of the things that I have already tried aren't working. What do I do? And that started my journey of meditation and all of the deep inner work that I did to try and find peace within, even though I couldn't change or control the chaos and the circumstances and the storm that was happening around me, I really discovered how to find a place of peace within in meditation, and I did a lot of self-work with therapy and lots of other things. That inner journey was the catalyst for that inner transformation, which eventually led to the outer transformation and the outer change and making healthier choices for myself. Yeah.
So very clear internalization, starting to go internal to look for the answers. And I think, that's a really powerful insight that many of our listeners will find really helpful, because there are so many times where we can't change so much going on in our lives. So the only thing we can control, even though it may not feel like we can at the time, is how we respond and what we choose to do about things. So, yeah, I really love that. Thanks, Emma. So when you look back, with the benefits of hindsight, of course, do you believe you've changed as far as who you are and your identity as a result of those trauma experiences?
Oh, for sure. There's been really powerful shifts for me. Yeah. I mean, at one level, I'm still the same person. I still have the qualities that I was born with.
Of course.
My gentleness and, other things that my friends might know about me. So that's obviously still there. But what I have learned is, I guess there is and this often comes with any trauma experience, or can come with trauma experiences, is a much deeper sense of compassion for self and for others. There's a much deeper understanding when you've suffered something and you've been through human pain. There's greater compassion for others who have suffered. For me, there's a greater sense of strength and resilience and self-resourcefulness that I didn't have before. I looked outside for soothing and for other people to fill me up and make me happy. I know how to do that for myself now. I know how to fill my own cup, so to speak, how to soothe myself, how to find happiness, how to find that sense of peace. So while it's beautiful to connect with other humans, I know that I can fulfill my own needs now. I understand really the critical importance of self-care and healthy boundaries.
Yes, definitely. So did you want to share a little bit about that? Because I know you are amazing and you have taught me personally so much with healthy boundaries and self-care. I'd love you to share a bit more.
Sure, yeah. So as a recovering self-sacrificing people pleaser,
I can relate.
which often goes along with trauma, or can do. I had those behaviors for various reasons, but what I've learned is actually what that does is deplete you, and it doesn't serve you. And when I was at my lowest point in burnout, I was at zero. Like, I was mentally, emotionally, physically, completely and utterly exhausted and wiped out. And so while that was, no one wants to be there and no one wants to repeat that, what that taught me very powerfully is the things, the people, the situations, the relationships, the activities, the environments that deplete me, but also the ones that replenish me. And the things that are nourishing for me and uplifting for me and in my highest best interest. And so what I learned from that is, the more I do the things that feel good to me, that nourish me, that nurture me, that are healthy for me, the better I feel in myself and the better I show up in all aspects of my life. I bring a better version of myself to my clients, to my work, to my family, to my kids, to my friends. So we're conditioned, especially as women, we're conditioned to put ourselves last, and that it's wrong or bad or selfish to do things for ourselves. But actually, I've learned that the opposite is true, that paradoxically, the more we practice being selfish, or let's call it self-care, the more we fill our own cup, the more clearly that's better for us, but also then the more we have to give to those around us. So really choosing intentionally to do the soul nourishing things every day, that's the self-care, but also to say no to the things that don't serve me, that I know are going to be unhealthy or depleting or, in whatever way are not going to be helpful for me. I've learned to say no to those things. And that was really hard in the beginning. That
Oh,
caused great anxiety and guilt and all sorts of discomfort. That was really, really hard for me. But the more I do it, the easier it becomes, the better I feel, the better I show up, to the point where now I really struggle to say yes to something that I know is going to make me feel that icky feeling in my body that I feel if I'm doing something that isn't right.
so by doing all the inner work you've done, you were, and I know this already, but you were very much in tune with your gut and your inner sense of your needs, your self-care and everything as a result. So it helps you check in with yourself to enable you to go, does this feel good? Or as you said, it feels icky. So it's a definite no. And I think we can all learn so much from that, because I know personally that I would often say yes, 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 because I thought I had to, or I love helping people, neglecting my own self, my needs and my self-care. So I think they're really, really powerful insights that we can all benefit from. And, I know that we're going to talk a bit later about where they can find you and the things that you can offer, which is so helpful, because the mindfulness and the meditation and just learning to tune in and regulate our own nervous systems is very powerful in shifting us, helping us move forward, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say that that has been at the crux of my healing, along with a whole lot of other things. But practicing the mindfulness and meditation, when I used to completely dissociate from that and from my needs and from what was going on, being able to tune in and be present to that enables me to recognize when there is something, a mental or emotional or physiological need that needs to be met. I'm feeling anxious or tired or thirsty or whatever it might be. I now recognize that in the early subtle stages and can do something about that to soothe myself or, nourish myself in some way. So practicing the mindfulness and meditation has really helped me tune into that, to tune into those needs and to meet those needs before they escalate and become something bigger, a bigger depletion or a bigger anxiety or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, thank you for that. So just wanted to ask, how has all the experience with trauma transformed your perspective on life, on relationships, and your personal values?
I've become much more deeply spiritual, actually, Nat. I used to be an atheist, but this experience has actually shown me that we are powerfully guided and that our soul will intentionally call us through experiences that might be challenging or traumatic sometimes, in order to learn the gifts, in order to learn the lessons, so that we can show up more fully and more powerfully in service of our mission in this lifetime. So it's actually given me, I used to be a very anxious person, very, very anxious, because I'm a sensitive, sort of anxious soul.
Yeah.
I don't often feel a lot of anxiety now, certainly not in my day-to-day life. When I'm stepping out of my comfort zone and doing new things, I do, but that pervasive sense of anxiety isn't there, and it's been replaced by by a feeling of trust that the universe has my back and that everything is working out in my highest best interest. So one of the analogies that I sometimes use is this sense of connection with my higher self, whatever you want to call that. Some people call that higher intelligence, intuition. Some people call that soul, spirit source, the universe, the divine. Having a sense that there's this guidance or this guide sitting on the mountaintop and we're down in the valley, and it
Mm,
knows where we are and it knows where we want to get to and it knows the best path to get us there.
Okay.
So when I tune into my intuition and follow those moments of inspiration, I know that it's that guidance leading me to where I want to go. And so there's this sense of well-being now that wasn't there. There's this belief that all will be well, that everything is okay. And magic actually starts to happen when you relax into that and start to look at things with a sense of, oh, I wonder how the universe is going to surprise and delight me today. Things start to unfold in a much more different way than if you try and hold things really tightly and control things really tightly, which I used to do. And that was coming from that place of anxiety. Now I'm like, oh, okay, let's ride this adventure. Let's see where life's going to take us. So life is much more fun having that spiritual knowing that everything's okay and I'm guided and I'm supported.
So that's a really massive shift, isn't it? To go from being such an anxious person to going, yeah, whatever, I'll put it out to the world, the universe, the higher self, whatever it is, as you said, to put it out to them and just know I'll be okay. It'll be okay. That is a
Yeah.
massive shift.
Yeah, it certainly feels better than being in that anxious space that I used to be in all the time, for sure.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. So, given that it hasn't always been like that, and that you've done all this inner work and you, I know you said you've done a lot of that and really explored you and your soul at a deep level. Could you share maybe a turning point, a powerful moment or milestone that really stands out for you? Yeah.
Yes, it was not long after I just started to learn meditation, and I came across this invitation to go to a silent meditation retreat. And everything in me, I just got such a powerful intuitive hit that said, go to this. It's going to be transformational. It's going to change your life. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't really know what it was about, but something was calling me really strongly. So I went to this silent meditation retreat, and there were so many layers of so many things in this retreat that were really powerful. But there's one moment that really stands out and viscerally still, I feel it in my body. We were doing an exercise where we had to do a paired meditation. We were sitting across from another person and eye gazing and meditating at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we did several of these across the weekend, but this particular one, I was meditating with the facilitator of the retreat, actually, who she was a older woman in her 70s, but she radiated the energy of the Dalai Lama. She radiated deep wisdom and compassion and love and just had this most beautiful energy. And something happened in that experience that is hard to put into words, but it was anyone who has had maybe a deep meditation experience. I had this sense of my body dissolving and just being pure energy. And from a scientific perspective, I now know what that is. Atoms are 99.9999999% space.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We look and feel like solid matter, but we are 99.99999% space. And when we go into deep meditation, we can feel that, we can sense that suddenly we feel like we are space and spacious. So it felt like my body dissolved and I was just this pure energy. And everything around me was just pure energy. And it was like just floating in this sea of energetic bliss and profound peace and a profound sense of connection with everything. And I can still feel that feeling in my body today. And I know that that's who we are at our core. We are this energy of peace and love. And we just have this human skin over the top of it, if you like. But if we can get still enough to quiet the noise in our head, we can tune in to that energy of love and well-being. It's the energy of the universe and it makes up everything.
Wow. that makes me want to have that same experience now. I'm thinking, quieting my mind, that would be really helpful because it didn't switch off very often.
So what that taught me, Nat, is, and that experience I had, I was in the midst of that traumatic relationship.
Wow.
So what that taught me was we don't need anything. We only need our breath. We only need our presence. And everything else, we don't need to have everything sorted in our external life. We don't actually have to have the perfect relationship and the perfect job and the perfect weather and the perfect house and we don't need any of that actually to feel a sense of well-being. We already have that within. That's who we are at our core. And it's only the noise of our human mind and the noise of life that can make us feel disconnected from that. But if we can get still enough, it's at the core of who we are. And the more we tune into that, the more we resonate with that, the more our external reality starts to reflect that back to us. The more those unhealthy things move out of our life and we attract healthier things into our life.
Oh, that feels amazing. I'm going to head off and do some meditation after this now. But I loved what you were saying then, because I think this is something that can also give significant hope. So you've been through a toxic relationship, and I know for many people who go through some challenging relationships, they can make choices to shut down or believe that that's all they're worth or that's all they're going to get. And I know that that hasn't been the case for you, that you have been able to really change your perspective on relationships. So are there any tips you could give as well to provide some hope that it is possible?
Sure, yeah. So that toxic relationship ended, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And, I took some time to do some self-work. I saw a therapist and I worked through my childhood wounds that had led me into that relationship. So I did that deep, deep, powerful healing. And I had my meditation practices and so forth. And by then I just started to discover a bit of woo.
I love your woo.
I'm happy to share a story if it's helpful for your listeners, Nat, of how I attracted a healthy relationship into my life.
Absolutely. I've actually heard this story and it's perfect. I love it. And I think there's many tips for us all in this one. Please do.
So after I'd been on my own for a while and I felt in a much happier, healthier place. And I just was in a moment of lightness and playfulness. And I thought, I'm just going to make a list of all the qualities that I want in my ideal partner. And so I just, started writing on the page all the things that I wanted. And I just went blah on the page. I didn't really think about it. I just wrote down all the stuff. And I ended up writing a list of 40 qualities that I was looking for in my ideal partner, Nat. So it didn't have expectations.
No expectations at all. Of course they exist, don't they?
Wasn't expecting too much at all there, Nat. So I go, there you go, universe, do with that what you will. That's what I'd like. And then I put the list aside and I forgot about it and got on with life. And at some point, I can't remember how long afterwards, some of my colleagues said to me, oh, you should go on to Bumble. You should start internet dating. There's some really nice guys out there. And I was like, no way, Jose, I'm so not doing that. I had all sorts of fears about that. But they harassed me in a kind and loving way. And they got me onto Bumble. And I was on there for a few months. And I was I maybe wasn't taking it too seriously, but I was doing the swipe left, swipe right thing. And I thought, I'm just going to wait until my intuition tells me that this is something that I should follow. So I had texted a few guys and messaging because my head went, oh, they tick lots of your boxes. They could be really good. But my intuition said to me, no, just wait. This isn't the right one. And so I was swiping and messaging, but hadn't been on a single date.
Mm-hmm.
And then this face popped up in my feed or whatever they call it. And my intuition, I got this feeling of excitement and my intuition went bing, 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 like all the bells and lights went off.
It's him.
I just went, see him, have a date with him. And so, we connected, we went on a date, and over 6 years later, we're still together. So he was my first date. I didn't have to go date all the frogs and kiss all the frogs, because I was waiting for my guide on the mountaintop to tell me this is the one.
And that is the perfect example of how, when we are able to do the inner work and really tune in to ourselves, our needs, our desires, and that higher self, it can happen. You trusted the process, you trusted the universe, and it delivered all 40 qualities. I'm impressed.
Nat, yeah, that's the thing. I found the list later, after a while. I can't remember when I found the list. And I went back and I looked at the list. He didn't have 40 qualities. He had 39 out of 40 qualities on the list.
Oh, he fell short by one. And what was that, Emma? What was that one?
But ironically, he's not woo. He's not spiritual.
He grounds you and keeps
He grounds me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd float off with the fairies completely. So it's probably a good thing, Nat.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that makes my heart feel full. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And I can't imagine that any one of our listeners would not wanted to have had you share that story. I think that is beautiful, and it shows that anything is possible, that when you've come out of unhealthy, unhelpful relationships, there can be hope, and that you also can play a part in that. You don't just have to settle for the first one that comes along, or the seventh or the eighth. You can tune into yourself and make a choice.
Yeah, and doing the inner work to shift through whatever might be holding us back from feeling worthy of that, I think is really important too, Nat, because my partner now he's very kind, he's very loving, he's very nurturing, and I wouldn't have attracted him in if I hadn't done that inner work. So I think that that's important as well. Yeah, it's not just making a list and putting it out there.
No,
there's
definitely not.
There's all the mindset work that I teach in my courses and stuff that is really helpful and an important part of that. But yeah, hopefully the listeners can take away some hope that absolutely things can change and things can really, really work out well for us.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's beautiful. So, do you think there are any specific qualities, personal attributes that you see as being key for moving through trauma and into post-traumatic growth from your own experiences and, the clients that you work with? Because I know you do a lot of group work as well for people with trauma now.
Yeah. Some of it's mindset stuff. Looking back, reflecting, I can see that perhaps two of the qualities that really served me were a sense of this belief that the universe is happening for me, not to me. So it shifted me out of a victim mindset into a more empowered mindset that, while at the time maybe I couldn't make sense of what was going on, and this realization only came with hindsight, understanding that everything that happens to us, even if on the surface it looks terrible and it feels terrible, in some way it is here to serve us. So the most challenging experiences that I've had in my life have come with the deepest learnings, the deepest gifts, the most powerful transformations. So while I wouldn't want to live them again, I can look back at them through the lens of appreciation, that I wouldn't show up with my clients as effectively as I do. I wouldn't show up with the presence and the knowledge and the understanding that I have if I hadn't been through those experiences. So having a sense of appreciation, or looking for the lesson in the challenge, in the difficulty, which isn't easy to do when you're in the thick of the pain. So having tools to manage the pain and suffering is helpful, but also having this broader view of what is the learning, what is the lesson, how is this thing showing up to serve me, and looking for that. So looking for the silver lining, which can be really hard to find when you're in the thick of it.
Oh, most definitely.
And I'm not talking about glossing over it. I'm not talking about putting a smiley sticker over the pain. It's important that we acknowledge that. It's not that. It's looking for what is the deeper meaning here. Finding the meaning in the suffering can be really powerful and transformational, or has been for me.
And I think that's certainly from the people that I've spoken to already in the podcast, that's very important, and an absolute key is around the lessons and how to, go through the weeds to find them. They're not always there and they're not always obvious. And one of the things is, it's always in hindsight. It isn't while we're in the midst of it, because it's too painful a lot of the time. It doesn't have to be years afterwards either, does it? As you've shown us, because we're all going to experience ups and downs in life. And what I love is that once we've been through some really significant trauma or adversity, we're more attuned to it. And when things will happen again, we can pull ourselves out of it and get back into the post-traumatic growth quicker. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think when you've faced your greatest fear
Mm-hmm.
and you've survived and you've come out the other side, there's a greater sense of capacity to cope. And so things don't throw you off balance quite as much. Sure, stuff happens, life still comes at you. But when you've faced the scariest thing and survived, it's easier to then face the hurdles that come.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one question that I like to ask, and you've already alluded to the fact that you'd had, some other trauma in your life, but this was your biggest experience in the toxic relationship. What do you think your younger self would think of what you've achieved now?
I think she'd be pretty proud. I think she'd be pretty blown away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah, I feel deeply blessed, actually, is what I feel, that even though I've been through some wobbles in life, I now feel a very deep sense of appreciation that life feels generally peaceful and generally joyful. And I am living my purpose. I'm living the thing that I was put on the planet to do. So there's a sense of awe and profound gratitude that this is the space that I'm at in life now, given everything that I've been through. And I know that all of those things have helped serve me to get to where I am now. So, yeah, I think my younger self would be happy for me that this is where I am now, that I'm living the thing that I was put on the planet to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. And really, as horrible as it's been, what you've been through, it really has been a gift, because it's allowed you to do so much soul searching, acknowledge the gift, and do everything in your power to be able to heal yourself and then pay it forward to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that feels really beautiful. Yeah, to be able to, because that is my highest purpose. That is the thing that lifts me up the most, is being able to support others, especially other women. It feels beautiful to be able to do that. So I know that I went through all of those experiences to be able to serve, to be able to support other women. So yeah.
Beautiful. And you're doing such an amazing job. You just ooze calm and peace and this amazing, powerful capacity to draw people in and soothe us no matter what's going on. And that's what we love about you. That's why we call you Little Miss Sunshine. Yeah. So as we move to wrapping up the conversation, Emma, where can our listeners find more about you and find you online?
Sure. So they can follow me on Insta if they want to, Emma Gray, GRAY .soulcoach. Or my website is emmagray.net. They can find more about their programs there. And if your audience want a freebie, Nat, I'm happy to give you the link for my ebook on 5 steps to manifesting with ease. find ways to bring more of the things into your life that you want without the struggle, without the stress, without the strain. Yeah, to bring it in with more flow.
Oh, that would be so amazing. And I'll put all the links in the show notes of the episodes so that they can find it. And I would highly recommend anything that you are offering is amazing, just around being able to also learn and experience. I know there's a guided meditation as well with that. So that will be really amazing and help settle all our nervous systems and maybe help share a deeper inner wisdom for all of us. So I'm really grateful that you're offering to do that. So is there anything else, any other Emma pearls of wisdom, and I'm sure there's many, that you'd like to share with our listeners, just around maybe navigating their trauma, giving a bit more hope? What other tips you could give to help them?
So for me, the most life-changing, the most helpful thing was meditation. And I know that that's not for everyone. So, there are lots of other tools, there are lots of other ways that we can calm our nervous system, whether we're in the midst of trauma or whether we're recovering from it, or whether we're just wanting to nourish ourselves. I'm a little bit biased because one of the most profound life-changing experiences came for me during meditation. But anything that feels soothing, for some people it's time in nature, for some people it's yoga or, well-being practices like that. Having a support network, if you can find a really good therapist or if you have some trusted friends that you can lean on, those things were really transformational. And absolutely, I couldn't have got through this without those supports. So, finding the internal resources, but also the external ones. Yeah.
Excellent. And I think, that wisdom is very important because it will take us, from surviving really through to thriving. So we can make the most out of the opportunity, as horrible as it is, that we've been faced with, and make a choice ourselves to give us our power back and empower us to move forward again in our lives. So, yeah. So thank you so much for joining us today, Emma. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you and hear your beautiful, soothing, calm voice and get your many insights and words of wisdom. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Nat, and thank you for doing this podcast for all of the listeners who might have been through some stuff and be looking for some support or inspiration. It's a beautiful and powerful mission that you have, Nat. So I feel honoured to be part of the journey with you and hope that something helpful has come through for your listeners today.
Oh, thank you, Emma. Very blessed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Thank you for joining me in this episode of Growing Tall Poppies. It is my deepest hope that today's episode may have inspired and empowered you to step fully into your post-traumatic growth so that you can have absolute clarity around who you are, what matters the most to you, and to assist you to release your negative emotions and regulate your nervous system so you can fully thrive. New episodes are published every Tuesday, and I hope you'll continue to join us as we explore both the strategies and the personal qualities required to fully live a life of post-traumatic growth and to thrive. So if it feels aligned to you and really resonates, then I invite you to hit subscribe, and it would mean the world to us if you could share this episode with others who you feel may benefit too. You may also find me on Instagram at Growing Tall Poppies and Facebook, Dr. Natalie Green. Remember, every moment is an opportunity to look for the lessons and to learn and increase your ability to live the life you desire and deserve. So for now, stay connected, stay inspired, stand tall like the tall poppy you are, and keep shining your light brightly in the world. Bye for now.